I can just production.
I tell you no kid. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. Man, we said to me, I'm here, no cure. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. Mathieu, when on a year you got that yes, or a format I mean, or you know, yeah, more songs. Making me your kid, wow. I hear that he may be a man. Or you walk by a dog, or walk by a day. Mema, I take him up your way, he may give you. Only got them or you may so tall. Yo, money, I ain't bill, he may no cure. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. Said to me, I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. Man, we said to me, I'm here, no cure. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. Yeah, money your more rock by you come on. Oga koe noga wapa. Oga koe noga atowe. Iye meso keni gaka. Iyo sano keva no saya we mo. Iye no kyo. Omaga baby ye me o. Omaga baby ye me nikbi nagere o. Noga kamwe pina, ogi kamwe so. Eso gare ne ikpina ikiamo, iye no kyo. I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. Man, we get set in me, I'm here, no cure. He said to me, I'm here, no cure. And that Benny get money, no cure. Obalo no ever, then no piave, no cure. This is Asha, Patience from the boss of your world.
Yes, the program is here for you and it's also here for me. I'm very, very delighted to be here. It's a special day, especially looking at our program, Women Roundtable, on Edo Broadcasting Service Television, Today's Choice. I'm your anchor on the program, or you may say Ode. If you don't mind, please call me OY. Yes, together Indeed, we can. And the International Women's Day was celebrated a couple of days ago. And as you're aware, together we can break the bias was a theme for this year's celebration. And like you know, in the month of March, women are marching higher and higher and soaring higher to demand their rights and again to say no to all of the issues that it appears that the men at the National House of Assembly, they have deregulated some of the rules not to favor us. But interestingly, after the march by the wives of some governors, majorly, they all came out to say no, enough is enough. Women must be given the pride of place. A lot has happened. But on the show today, we're delighted because the narrative is beginning to change. 3 of the bills that were earlier rejected have been receded, and we're believing and hoping that as we push further, as we break the bias, we'll have the other 2 remaining assented to. All right, I have beautiful women in the house. I want to say indeed the house is full. It's a celebration time for all women. I like to celebrate all these beautiful, intelligent, brilliant, vibrant women in the studio. I like to welcome, first of all, Pastor Momo Joy, President of Joyous Mothers International. I'd like to welcome you to the show. She's sitting out of the camera. I also like to welcome Loveth Martins, also a member of the Joyous Mothers International. I also like to welcome Adesua One of Africa. She's also behind the camera. However, I also like to welcome Joy Musa Agedo. I'd like to welcome also Rosemary Okodua. I would like to welcome Precious Ogafua Uwa. She belongs to the Congos. I'm sure she will let us into what Congos means much later. I also like to welcome Adesua Aimoa, the chairperson for NAWOJ, Edo State. I'd like to welcome all of these beautiful ladies, especially to the show. Like you see over there on my right is the NAWOJ president, Edo State. I'd like to welcome you to the show. She looks very gorgeous. Adesua, welcome.
Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to you, dear sister, and of course our esteemed viewers out there.
Nice to know that you're here. I also like to welcome Rosemary Okodua, one woman activist, standing always in the forefront to liberate women and make them realize their potentials. I'd like to welcome you.
Thank you, presenter. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my viewers, and so good to be here.
Yes, I also like to welcome Uwa Precious Ogafua. Thank you for coming on the show. You belong to Congos.
Yeah.
What's Congos about?
Thank you very much for settling here. Congos is an organization that is an organization for all NGOs.
All right,
Yes.
all right. I wanted to be sure about that acronym so that our viewers also can know where you're from. Interesting. First of all, let me wish every woman here happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have us celebrate again. But just when I was pondering and asking myself, was there a reason to celebrate this year's celebration in particular? Was because of the reasons that you and I know that the bills that were rejected, just when we were pondering and celebrating or trying to chart a narrative through the different policies and then charting a way for how women will push their voices through, we heard at the meeting that the 3 bills have been, and for me that was a very cheerful one, and I think that's something that everyone should jubilate over. However, let me come first of all to look at the 2 remaining bills. Again, the issue of indigenship and then having to allow women the 30% affirmative rights, affirmation, that was ascended to. But the other remaining 2 is still a fight that we're fighting and we'll keep pushing. That's so that we can have a full assent to the 5 bills that were apparently rejected earlier on. All right, let me come to NAWOJ President Edo State. For you, do you think that politically, socially, women have been fairly treated, even before the rejection of this bill by the members of the House of Reps?
Well, before the advent of what actually transpired precisely a few days ago, we both know that women have not been properly treated. You understand? You know, we keep clamoring for the 35% affirmative yearly, every March 8, women come out en masse to keep preaching, to keep pushing, hoping that someday they'll get equal representatives across board. But it's so pathetic that we have not really gotten what we truly deserve or what we truly you understand, meant to have. But so far, when the issue at the National Assembly actually came out, it's women came out in Mars in unity and in oneness to kick against it. And so far, so good. We are very thankful to all women organizations and body that stood firm, that stood tall to make sure that the National Assembly rescind their decision. And so far, out of the 5 bills, 3 have been approved. And we are hoping, we are still optimistic that the other 2 will also be approved. And of course, so that women can get equal representative in all ties of government, be it in governance, be it in politics, be it in any spheres of life. We just want adequate representation of women.
All right, looking at having adequate representation of women, I'd like to come to Rosemary. Do you think, are you of the opinion that because women should be given that level of representation, should it just be women who do not know where they're going, or they should just be given that place because they're women?
Well, in giving them equal opportunities, not just for women who don't even know what they are doing or where they are going. You understand? Although in the men folk, you see at times they will just bring out a man and will say, don't worry, when he gets there, he will learn. I also believe that the women can learn, if at all. Yes, you can bring in a woman, train that woman, show like some of them that are in the House of Rep that want to vote 10 times, they want to vote 20. Well, they didn't come with it from heaven. It was when they got there, they learned how to do things there. So
I dare say that we will not allow our women to learn on the job. We will prepare them now, especially now that we're aware. For example, at the International Women's Day celebration, yes, the governor said to everyone, said to the women get ready. We must get ready. We're not going to go there and then. Okay.
Women are always ready.
Okay.
The men are telling you, women get ready. Even this 3B that they have approved, I'm not even too sure of them, because they will still have their way round again to turn things the way they want it. That is meant for you.
But that's why we're here.
When they say women
we're not
get
going to
ready,
allow that.
The women are always ready. But when the time comes, will they give the woman the opportunity? Will they give the opportunity?
That's what we're saying now. We're not waiting for the men to give us the opportunity. We're saying that if we're ready, we will go get the opportunity. We're not waiting for the men. We're not asking for their views anymore. We've gone past that.
Okay, now you belong to, for example, those in the National Assembly now, there are people that come through a political party. You are in a political party, where you have men at the helms of the affairs of the party.
Yes.
And they tell you, and you are a married woman, you have your limitations. Now they tell you they are having a meeting, and this meeting is going to be 2 o'clock in the night.
Yes.
And you don't have that time to be there. Who will represent you there? Who will speak for you? How will your voice be heard?
Very good. You mentioned, because now you're beginning to shift the die. You mentioned and you asked a question. You like to comment? Yeah.
Let me come into this.
Okay, please.
I think it's like time we call a spade and learn to face the reality of every occupation or profession.
Absolutely.
So if you are going into politics, you
They
have to
have
be
the
ready.
rules.
You have to be prepared for it. Just like now, you say, for instance, you're a journalist. Sometimes we have women on the night shift. We have nurses,
you make out time.
We have women on
if
the night
men
shift.
can, why
They're
can't we
married,
know? We're breaking the bias.
Children, they have responsibilities.
Not
they
anymore.
have in-laws to take care of.
We don't want them to say
still they do their job. We also have doctors on the night shift. And
exactly.
they're women.
Exactly.
So there's no excuse.
There's no bias. There's no barriers.
Don't forget that you are a woman and that you are under a man's roof.
Okay.
And the man will tell you, I don't want you to go out at night. What will you do?
Okay, so if the man was not in support...
No, if the man said no, what will you do?
If the man has not been in support, if the man has not granted you that permission to be politically involved, then this kind of issue can come up. But not at the middle of your ambition. He says that to you. He therefore means that man is against you and he doesn't want you to grow.
I think
all right,
I am of the opinion that the parties should change their rule. Meetings should be in the daytime, not at night.
Nocturnal meetings are usually for politicians. It's all right. I'll come to Uwa. Uwa, please, I like to I mean, she had said something now, which seemed to, set the barrier.
Yeah.
And for this year's theme, it says breaking the barriers, breaking the barriers, breaking the limitations, breaking those things that hinder us from achieving our political space, from achieving successes in any field that we find ourselves. The cultural background. She mentioned the fact that your husband says you're going for a meeting at about 2 a.m. and your husband says, well, I allowed you the other time, but today I don't want you to go for that meeting. I would rather ask that you wait for tomorrow. When they have any meeting for afternoon, I would allow you go. So how can we begin to break these things without necessarily affecting our home or affecting our marriages?
That's when understanding comes in.
All right?
That's the issue of understanding. When I'm getting married and my husband's likes me to do this job as in maybe as a politician, then he as a man should have my backup.
That's it.
Can even take care of the children when I'm not around. Men out there want their wives to be voices. There are some men that really want to be a voice, but they don't have the ability to stand. But when they have a woman that can stand in gap, they support such a woman with all effort. You as a man, when your wife have a meeting at night, you can also drop him there and even wait for her. You sorry, you can drop her.
Yeah, I heard about someone who does that. Usually when the wife, there was a narrative that was told about a particular woman that was said to be in the House of Assembly. I mean, she reminded everyone at that meeting how in some instances she was meant to be at the meeting at 3 a.m. The husband will come with her, drop her, and then will wait for her. When she finishes the meeting, they both drive home. Exceptions to every rule. Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody cannot be the same. Yeah. But we're trying to break these biases.
Yes.
We're trying to break these barriers.
Yes.
And you mentioned, for example, understanding is the key word. Okay, yeah. I'd like to come back to you, Rosemary. Beyond understanding now, again, we look at the fact that we are hindered by the patriarchy. You know, it's a man's word. There's male dominance. In one of the seminars that we attended, they've asked that we should not even try to aid and abet men when we say that we recognize the fact that it's a male-dominated world. Is it really a male-dominated world, or we're just begging the question?
I think we are begging the question.
Okay.
It's not a male-dominated world because you see, most things, when we say what men can do, women can do better. Women can actually do better.
They can do best.
I
believe that.
They can actually do that.
Together we can.
We are just begging the issues. It's just for us to stand up and stand firm. Stand up, stand firm, support ourselves. Support ourselves. That one is very, very important because a woman will tell you, I want the woman to be president. I see some posters on the social media now. As a woman, we will support you, we are behind you. On that day, are you really behind her? Are you really behind her? So we should learn supporting ourselves is key. If women actually support women, the sky will be our limit.
Okay. Chairperson, are you of the view that women should support women just because we're women? Because 2023 election beats by, we are now saying we want to change the narrative. How can we get women to reposition themselves so that it wouldn't just be a case of because she's a woman, I want to allow her? No.
Yeah. Basically, one major way we can change the narrative as women is for us to learn to support each other. Give each other adequate support in all ramification. You understand? When you see your sister probably vying for a position, give her the necessary support. If you don't have any support, just keep quiet. Just keep quiet if you don't have anything to offer.
Instead of making hate speeches or trying to malign or trying to be a word.
And all sorts of issues, just keep quiet and just let her go. If you have the necessary support, be it finance, words of encouragement and everything, let it be. Then coming back to the issue of what patriarchal society, but honestly speaking, that's where we find ourselves today. To be sincere, we live in a patriarchal society whereby it's a man's word. It all starts from our home. For instance, looking at gender, when a couple have a child and it's a male, they say it's a full current. When it's a female, they say it's in half current.
No, I think, Chairperson, I thought we've gone past that.
We have gone past
even with that amazing advert that was playing on the air, the MTN adverts where we saw that happening. I think that because voices of women were heard and then they had to pull down that particular advert that was talking about full current and all of that. And then to think that in this 21st century, we're still thinking in this manner about patriarchy. Are we going to ever survive?
I agree with you, we're in the 21st century, but honestly speaking, these things still linger in our society till today, till this moment. You understand? I think the best bet is for us to keep clamoring that parents, guardians, and caregivers should give their children equal opportunity, because everything
Even
starts
from the home.
From the home. It starts from the home. It starts from the home. You don't discriminate among them, irrespective of the gender. give them equal attention, show them equal love, bring them up together. Because some people still have this idea to tomorrow that when you have a female, the gender, at some day, sometime, she leaves and bears the name of another
husband.
You understand? So it's like it's a loss to the family. Some families sees it from their perspective. Till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow.
Yes.
Even in some cultures in Igbo land, I hear that while we probably in a Edo state will give the male the male counterpart some level of acquisition of property or module and all that. I hear too that for the Igbo culture, in some of the Igbo culture, they tend to respect the Igbo first daughter, the Ada, and then they bequeath properties to her too. So that while some cultures say, well, we do not agree, another culture seem to patronize the girl child.
So a lot has to be done from our foundation, from our cultural beliefs. I think it's hard to have to go back to the drawing board, that irrespective of the gender, just do the needful, take good care of your kids and everything. So when we start from the foundation, I'm sure with time, women will get adequate representation in all spheres of life.
All right. What a way to leave it there. We'll take a short break here. We have more women waiting eagerly to be a part of this panel. We'll bring them in and let's find out their own view concerning all of these things. Don't forget that the celebration of International Women's Day was still basking in that euphoria with the theme, breaking the bias. Let's take a break here. We'll be back.
Proceed on the beats.
I love you, my mama. I cherish you, my mommy. I'm gonna let your body, you say. I'm gonna let your body, you say. Iya upone moya yegbe, iya ugepene moya gegbe o. Iya wane moya vie, iya upone moya yegbe, iya ugepene moya gegbe o. Donona, oni agbe mo iye rivie, oni agbe mo iye risoto o. Agbemo iye rivie, every money emu o, every money emu o. I'm gonna let your body you say. All of my body, every now I'm gonna let your body you say. Moyamu, ora keta marera mu webe. Iyo me soke ni laga o, iyo soke. Iye na kwa moyamu, mami ora keta marera mu webe. Iye me soke ni laga o, iyo soke. Not se me Agume por mi me o. Aquí nada se me o manu rekwe me o manu remu me o. Agbegari o boka. Agbera mwana o, mommy pepe shaka milo, mommy sugar honey, yes okay. Sweet mama, I'm gonna let your body you say. All of my body. I'm Abiye moya, ameni yoko. Abiye moya oh, ameni yoko. Abiye moya, wame gugwa. Abiye moya wawesi.
Yes, welcome back for that short break. It's International Women's Day celebration, and in this month of March, women are marching on to demand their rights and to take their place, both in the social space, in the political space, in the religious space, just to say that indeed, we're not asking that we take over the men, but we're saying that we should be greeted with equity, we should be treated fairly and transparently so that we can have a balanced society where both rights of the women are not taken for granted and is not abused. All right. Just before we went on that break, I was saying that we're going to be joined by new sets of women. Adesua, one of Africa, is seated here. I'd like to welcome her to the show. She's looking very gorgeous.
Merci, thank you so much. Good to be here with you.
All right. I also like to welcome Mrs. Joy Musa Agedo, a veteran journalist. I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Wise. Good to have you here.
All right. I also like to welcome Pastor Momo Joy, President of Joyous Mothers International. I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
All right. We'd like to begin with Joy Musa Agedo. We just before we took that break, we recognized that women have been hindered in somewhat way, and we'd like to look at some of the things that has hindered women. They talked about the patriarchy. It's a male-dominated world. They say it's a man's world. So usually, when you have men saying they're in charge, one of the guests I had earlier on said it was because of the fact that when they're growing up in the house, the family, that's where it usually starts. Do you think that even in this 21st century, should that be happening in families, or should that be happening in the society? Or don't you also think that perhaps that was responsible for what we saw at the House of Rep, where the men had to say no to us in the first place?
Yeah, I believe time has come for women to begin to reinvent themselves. No man is going to give you that freedom to do it for yourselves. You must have to go out. Because whether you like it or not, if you're looking at the African background, where we're coming from, it's a belief that a woman should be silent. A woman should walk from behind the scene.
Even in this 21st century?
Hold on.
I thought we'd gone past that.
Hold on, my dear. If there are some places you go to, even in the religious circle, they will tell you, yes, a woman, we thank God we now have women archbishop. Women can preach, women can do this.
Beautiful.
There are some certain positions, to me, in all fairness, to me, do you need to put it by law? I must get a seat in House of Assembly before you can look at me as a human being to vote for me and let me, through my votes, acquire that position, get to that position. What you're telling me is that by saying, okay, I'll give you 4 seats to be this in the National Assembly or in the State House of Assembly, you're telling me indirectly that that is where I can get to. If I want to become a president tomorrow, I don't need to be, because there's
but that's the first step. That's the first step.
To what I'm still praying for, I'm still hoping for is, please, a woman, get up from where you're seated, begin to reinvent yourself. If it will take you to say, let me start from the local level as a councillor, let me build up myself, my career as a politician, build it up, get to where, you were discussing about meetings just now, and somebody was saying that even the husband will take her, they wait for her. That is a man who understands, who is a light in the north.
How many of them do we have like that?
I think with time we'll begin to get there. You see, don't go bossy when you see another problem. Don't go bossy when you get one political appointment or when you're elected. Still show your humility.
Your husband.
Still show your humility. If you are humble enough, you can get anything you want from your husband. Don't be bossy, but reinvent yourself. Make sure you start from the root, build yourself up, and when you're talking, you'll be listened to. When you get it right from that beginning, the sky will be your limit.
Okay, I'd like to go to Pastor Mrs. Momo, Evangelist Momo. she just mentioned something talking about humility and how women can pave their way if only they are subject to their husbands, as it were. Is it an easy task to achieve, especially when you want to aspire for those kind of exalted positions? Should he humble you, or he should actually make you say, well, I'm now the SSA to the governor on political matters, so my husband to understand regardless?
I want to say there are things that are very, very unfortunate that are happening in the women folds. But I come from this line of love. Love is the principal thing. If the man loves the wife, whatever she wants to become, the man will support. But on the platform of women, somebody mentioned it and I want to re-emphasize. Women don't love each other.
Why do you say that? That's an allegation.
It's not an allegation. It's the truth. It's what we are experiencing. For instance, this thing we are saying now, it will go better if we love ourselves. We will achieve more if we love ourselves.
How do you mean loving yourself?
On Tuesday, I'm coming. On Tuesday, thank God that the women went to the federal capital to go and say something.
The governor's wives.
If they didn't go and say something as a team.
But they were united. They were united. That's why their voices were heard.
That's what I'm saying. I said when we are united, and what brings unity? Love.
No, you just made a claim. You said women don't love themselves. And I say in what instance you mean? Yes. Because of time.
Yes. Women don't love themselves, like she used the word bossy. The woman wants to underrate her co-woman. But by the time we love ourselves and we want to embrace each other, we want to, whatever you know, whatever you are able to achieve, I applaud you, you applaud me, we will do better. We will do more.
Okay.
Even in the home, if love is coming from the husband to the wife, whatever the woman wants to achieve, the man will give the backup.
All right.
So, my agitation is women should love each other. If the men are using the women against themselves.
Exactly. How do you mean?
Yes. For instance, to be very open, the uniform people. If a policeman hold you and you are able to, yes, and you are able to explain yourself, he will let you go. But if a woman holds you, you will be there.
Well, depending on the circumstance, you don't generalize.
No.
Because we've also found some nice female police women.
I am not saying that we are not good. In my own
experience,
not experience, my own classification or percentage is when in a system, the bad is more than the good, then the system is bad.
Absolutely.
But in a system where the good is more than the bad, then the system is good. In the system of us women, we don't have it.
Okay, we don't have it. And so do you agree that we don't have it? And how can we have it so that we can put it in the right narrative?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'll just quickly do mine and, take a leak. So I would say I am team everybody right here. I support everything that has been said. Women are not doing enough. I do not believe existence in politics or any sector in the country actually depends on the men allowing us. I believe women, we have to work hard enough to get it. We need to understand who we are as women. We need to stop castigating ourselves. We need to stop at every point in time bringing down another woman.
Yes.
Even this morning, I was in a situation where there was a keke stuff and all that, and there was a woman carrying a baby on her back. While guys were already sitting on the best part of the keke, and I was like, hey, you guy, you come to the front so the woman with the baby can come in. The woman was actually standing with another man. It was the woman inside that keke that shouted, "You don't fool." I was so pissed. I was so irritated.
Should we be angry if a co-woman like you tells you the truth? Or just tries to be candid.
That,
in some
no.
instances.
Just
you know,
to
women
avoid,
can be very
because
flippant.
of time.
You know,
Because of time, just to avoid too much explanation. The woman with the baby was supposed to be the first person to get into the keke, but because there was no good space for her, so there was another guy standing beside her. The guy jumped in.
Yeah.
But I was asking another guy in a good space to come to the small space in front so the woman with the baby can sit down. It was another woman inside at the back of the keke that shouted, "Idon food."
That is it.
So you see,
So that she will not come in.
we do these things.
she doesn't know how before.
We
she
do
doesn't
these
know how,
things.
so we will not judge
We don't know.
them
We don't
based
know
on
each
that,
other, but
yeah.
we don't need to know each other to support each other. We don't need to know each other to fight for ourselves. How would you want a woman carrying a baby to walk the distance and there was no other keke coming in sight? So in a long while there will be no other keke. But the young man without a bag, without anything, can easily trek.
Yeah.
But you will not ask the woman carrying a baby on her back to do that
the fact
trekking.
she's
So
carrying a baby,
what
she
I
should
am
have been
saying
taught,
is,
her conscience should have
we
been taught.
women, we
She
have
too,
to
she's a
wake
woman.
up. Our
She
society
knows
needs to wake up on the
She
plight
knows what
of
it
women.
is to
And
carry
most
a baby.
importantly, women should understand who they are as women and fight for themselves. Fighting for yourself means fighting for the other woman as well.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll take a short break here and let's have another woman join us and let's find out if it's true indeed that women do not love themselves and they do not support themselves. We have gone past this narrative. We want to change it so that the remaining two
We want
bills
it to be
can
her.
be passed. If we continue like this, I'm sure we're not going to make it. We cannot wait to afford to lose the remaining two bills. Let's take a short break
We
here.
won't lose.
They can be able to
It's
play.
All
not
right,
enough.
the studio is heated up with arguments, and so the camera came on us just
We love.
unaware.
There's not more.
Hold it there, hold
It's
your
not
thought there.
yet.
The program is still Women Roundtable on Edo Broadcasting Service Television. Today's choice. I'm glad to say that the studio is a little bit noisy, and that's because women are here. And usually, not because women are noisy, but because they are result oriented every time. They want to get the right things done. They want to go through the process. So women are organized people. They love themselves, and they will want to ensure that women are on top. Let's see how much we can actually defend ourselves and fight for ourselves and look out for one another so that the society can be lovelier and sweeter. All right, I'd like to come to the new additional guests that we have here. I have Loveth Martins. I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you got her there. Okay, I'd like to come to Joy Musagedo. What's your view? Are you of the opinion too, like the last guest mentioned, that women, if they love themselves more, if they look out for each other more, and if they learn to have a shoulder for one another, women will go places and they will do better than how we're doing now?
When Evangelist Gold was talking just now, she said, if a system, the good is over the bad, the system is good.
Yeah.
If the bad is over the good, the system is bad.
Absolutely.
Now, I did a report on this particular topic we're treating now, last week, Thursday. All the guests I interviewed, both the male and the female, said the same thing. Women don't love themselves. And I'm not basing my opinion on that. I'm basing my opinion on the truth that women don't love themselves.
Okay, I thought we've gone past that. I mean, we are changing the narrative or breaking the bias.
We
I should
can't
have
break
thought
the
that-
bias without handling that issue.
Okay.
Because if we say we want the male folk to give us a chance and they open the door for us, and we cannot coordinate ourselves in love and in strength, unity of purpose, and say we must get there, and we start pulling each other from the corners, pull him down, pull her down, then I won't go there. Come over there, pull her down. But we'll come out and say we wear the sun should be the same attire, we are clapping, but behind we are pulling. We will not get there.
Okay. We will not get there. Let's find out how we can get there. I'd like to come to you, Evangelist Momo. How can we get there? How can we get along, apart from love that you've mentioned? What are the other things that we can do so that we can get there?
I want to still come in from this angle, talking about the Bible. The Word of God says, "For by flesh can no man prevail." The devil has been using women against themselves and against their oppositors.
counterparts.
Yes, or their
Opposite
male
sex.
counterparts. Now, the way we can get there is through prayers. We cannot overemphasize that. Because
Faith
if
without works is dead.
if we pray and then
We don't strategize.
we now allow ourselves the word of God to dwell in us, and then we now start to try to practicalize. It's
Yes.
not easy.
Practice.
It's not easy.
In politics,
But
we're not going to be bringing in Bible. I think that
is it not the human that become politicians? If they are getting it right from their houses, many of them go to church, and if they hear the word of God and they obey, they will behave well when they go outside. And even when they now know that heaven is real and hell is real, and that when they hear the word of God, they are supposed to be more pious. You mentioned the word humility. In the word of God, the more you are blessed, the more you're supposed to be humble. But the woman will size the other woman is an irony. What is she wearing? She's not up to. No, all those things, we should put it behind. If we want to make headway, if we want to go forward,
want women to succeed,
from
want women
where
to be
we
celebrated.
are now
Yes.
to the next level, 2 things I recommend. Number 1, love, and number 2, prayers.
Oh, love and prayers. Okay, I'd like to find some of your recommendations on how women can move forward.
Well, so much has been said, but we don't have time to dwell on this. I will employ them to,
You speak out, please.
sorry, I will employ them to have self-confidence, be humble, and then try to bring yourself, they should bring their body under subjection.
How do you mean?
Situation. Yes, they react irrationally and without minding.
Isn't that by nature? As women, we have that emotional elasticity.
That is why I
can
said
be worked
we should
upon.
work on that and
It
bring
should be- it's
Self-control.
achievable,
their body
yes.
under
Self-control.
subjection. And with this, we can move forward and probably fit in for what we are agitating for. If we want women to rule, women shouldn't be against themselves. I wish you allow me to cite one instance.
Go ahead.
We were in government house. I thought Ms. Evangelist Mama would
Just
mention
go
this.
ahead.
We were in government house. It was the man
On Tuesday.
It was the man who allowed us in, just because our name was slightly omitted in the list. With all I explained to the woman, I did everything to explain to our NGO, blah blah blah, and others. She openly said, "You cannot go in."
But she was doing her job.
Yes, I know, but
Because, by right, women usually will be strict. They want to do, they follow due process.
protocol.
But should they be stigmatized for doing what is right or doing their job diligently?
we shouldn't be rigid. We should be flexible, because I saw 3 persons entered. So that was why I walked up to her to explain that this thing could be an omission. She was so rigid. Could you believe that it was a man who walked up to us and looked at me and said, "Madam, you will go in."
But I used to think that the cliche that says that when a woman talks to a woman usually will understand.
Understand.
So what has happened to that narrative? I'm asking her.
Okay.
Women, I'm afraid, don't usually understand.
Why don't they understand?
There is no
Could it
time
be
and
born out of
circumstance.
envy, jealousy? What exactly is it?
It should be jealousy, and they're usually against us. They're not. That is why I said they should not be rigid. At least they should be flexible, like the men.
Oh, men are flexible.
Yes,
You have that
they
opinion
are.
that they're
Yes,
flexible.
even
Yeah.
Men love
I
men.
agree that men
Men
are
love
flexible.
women.
Ah,
But women
Men are
don't love
flexible.
women.
It's another woman that will go and tell another man,
Yes.
your wife is sleeping around.
Yes.
Don't support her. Don't let her go into politics or else she
we're
will
not
not
saying
mess
that is
up.
good.
We should learn to be. Let's love.
Let's
Let
accommodate
love
one
rule.
another.
Let's not be rigid.
Okay. Last word from you so that we'll wrap it up.
I want to quote 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. It says, finally, be ye all of one mind,
All right, one mind.
having compassion one of another. Love as brethren. Be pitiful. Be courteous.
All right. It's a fine place to leave it. Be pitiful, be cautious, and let's love one another. Let's learn to accommodate one another. I saw actually talking about the women folk. I think that if we can love ourselves more, we can have each other's back. We can say, well, this woman has the pedigree to do it.
Yes.
I may not be able to do it, but I will support her. And I do not necessarily need to have her as a friend before I can support her, or as a relative, but just support her because she's a woman and because you're aware that she has the right potential or the right prerequisite to get that position or to get to that place where she desires to be. All right, it's on this beautiful note we've come to the end of today's presentation of a program, Women Roundtable. I've had a great time on the show. It's been a full house. And indeed, I like also to do this before we go. There's this sign that we'll all do. Together we can break the bias. So let's have all the women do this on the show as we celebrate 2022, the International Women's Day. We'll join women all over the world to say, indeed, breaking the bias. Together we can. Yeah, together we can. All right. Thank you.